Hello, 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 Danicker here, and today I'm going to beat the entirety of the world's hardest game 3 in 43 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, I hope you guys are excited because this is a crazy run with a lot of new strategies and techniques, and also a very low death count of 38 deaths for the entire game. To summarize the run, the first 3 levels were average but not great, but levels 4 and 5 were really fantastic, with just 1 death on 4E5 and only 3 deaths on 4B4, and many rooms in level 5 completely deathless. And you'll notice that I'm using an auto splitter, so I've got screenshots from every few rooms, so we're going to be splitting every 2 or 3 rooms, similar to what I did in my any percent run, except I've adjusted the images for 100% because the routes in some levels are slightly different. So I'm just in the middle of completing Curab's fast strat for 1C2, which I used to think was quite difficult, but now I've been able to get it consistently, and so I use that in all of my runs. Just entering 1B1. Now in my individual level speedrun of this level, I actually use the key clip when I collect the top key in this room, but for the full game run, the key clip, I don't have a consistent enough way to perform that. There's actually an interesting oddity with the key clip, which is that if you're too fast and you get the checkpoint before the cutscene, then the key actually reappears and is not collected. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out my IL from level 1 100%, which will be linked in the description, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But for the full game run, we're not going to bother with the key clip. It only saves about 10 seconds, so we're through there with 1 death, unfortunately, and we're 4.5 seconds behind going into level 1B3, and the splits on the side of the screen are against my personal best at the time, which was 48-41. So that's the splits you're seeing, but 4 or 5 seconds isn't going to make too much difference because we're going to save a huge amount of time in other parts of the run. And now that we've collected both of those keys, we can go ahead and collect the green paint, the first paint in the 100% run. And we'll head on over to 1C2, we've unlocked the golden gate, and we can head on to the final beacon. So that was level 1. Unfortunately we had a death there, but we're into level 2 in 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which is perfectly fine. About 6 seconds behind Jacob's time for level 1, but like I said, we're going to be gaining huge amounts of time later on. If you don't know the history, Jacob first completed this game 100% in it with a time of 2 hours and 41 minutes, and he then improved on that time in July of 2019 with a time of 1 hour and 47 minutes. And then I decided to take up this game, and I thought I could beat his time of 147, so I set a time of 107 and then 103, and I was on the verge of sub-hour, but I didn't quite make it. Jacob beat me to it with a time of 56:31, which is his personal best and is the former world record prior to this run. So it's been quite a journey for both of us, and most of the time saved in this run has been partly from dying less often, but mostly from adopting the faster strategies that I've been using in my any percent routes. And my strategy for attacking this category was to do each level as an individual level speed run first, and then once I mastered each level, I started doing full game runs. We're heading now to the blue paint, which is the first optional area in level 2, and so because we're doing the 100% category, we need to collect all the paints and all the keys. So we collected the green paint in level 1, we're going to be collecting the blue paint in this level, and there's actually exactly 1 paint in every level, so we'll see those as they come along, but for now we're going to be getting the blue paint. The first few parts of this room are basically exactly how I routed them, but on the return from this checkpoint here, I messed something up slightly, didn't quite go as fast as I hoped to, but that's okay. Only lost a few seconds, and I didn't die, which is the main problem. It would actually lose quite a bit of time. So this room was fine. You'll see here, it was here where I lost the time. You can actually go slightly faster through here and get in front of that enemy just there. But I didn't quite make it, so I have to wait for a little bit here, and I also have to wait here for this enemy to come back. And then once I get the paint, I also have to wait down here, so it does lose a little bit. And in my individual level speedrun, I executed that flawlessly, so if you want to see that, check that out. So at this point we're making fine pace, because we're only 4.6 seconds behind my PB. 2B2, this is one of the rooms where the route I've used hasn't really changed since day one. But there is a faster possible route, as I've mentioned before, but it requires a very precise entrance as soon as you get into this room, and I've never been able to do it consistently, so that's why I don't use that. We're just about to come into A2, which is our next split, and you see we're 7 seconds behind, but like I said, that doesn't really make much difference in the scheme of things. So we're going up here. I used to take this area more slowly, but after doing the maze in 5B3, it's pretty easy to go through here fairly quickly. So moving up here, this is probably the easiest room in level 2. The left and the top, you just need to enter at the right time, and you'll get through to the other side without dying if you enter early enough. And the middle part here is not too difficult. There's a few grid cues that you need to be in the right place, but other than that, no troubles. And heading straight down to A2 again, and we've almost finished this level. We just need to mop up a few coins and go down to A3. And I really like the way I rerouted this. There's a nice fast route into A3 here. And unfortunately I died there on the entrance to A3. In fact, something unusual that happened in this run that basically never happened to me before is I actually got a lot of deaths on the right side of this room. And basically the reason for that was when I was practicing this level, I was toying around with a strategy that involved basically a faster strategy, but it was quite difficult. And during this run I decided to go for it even though I hadn't practiced it. And there you can see I died. So basically it involves trying to go to the coins in this manner, but I tried it a few times, but I kept on dying. I really shouldn't have tried it at all, but sometimes I just get carried away, so I tried that a few times and died, and then I realized I should just be doing the route that I know well. But that is a strategy you can do. And then I had a really strange death at the bottom there, so all in all I lost probably about 30 seconds here that shouldn't have happened. So that's a shame, but like I said, we'll be gaining plenty in the later levels. So that's level 2 done in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Now level 3 here, there's a lot of rerouting in level 3. So you can see that I actually didn't get those coins there. I headed straight into A2, getting the key, and yeah, there's a lot of subtle, minor improvements that I've made to this, as well as a lot of major improvements, but most of the major improvements you already saw in my 80% run. But there's some minor changes I've made for 100% compared to my previous 100% route that just save a little bit of time, make the transitions a little bit tighter and a little bit faster. So for example here you'll see I'm going to go through, but I'm not going to collect the coins. I'm going to go straight through, just grab the checkpoint just in case I die. Go straight through, get these coins up here, and then go straight down, and I'll get those coins later. So here in 3B3, the first part of this route is quite tight, but the rest of it is fairly reliable. So I've managed to come up with a fast and yet very consistent route for this room, which is really good. It can be done even faster. You'll see as we're coming back to the middle checkpoint here after collecting this key that I do wait a bit on that checkpoint before proceeding to leave the room. So slightly faster is possible, and that may be something that I look into in the future. Coming back to 3B2 here, I just messed up at the beginning here and accidentally did the 80% route, so let me try that again. We're doing the 100% route here, and now we're going to get these coins, and here there's a tight maneuver here, but gets us through to 3A2 pretty quickly, and we're going to be heading up to 3A1, which is a really cool room, one of my favorites in the game for sure. I'm going to be using a pre-planned route for the first half and also for most of the return, but towards the end of the return it gets a little bit improvised. I really should polish up my route for the return, but I've never been bothered to, so it's staying as it is. Collecting these coins, you actually have to make sure that you collect them all fast enough to get back in, or I need to make sure I collect them fast enough to get back for the cycle that I know. But if I do miss it, I'm able to improvise this room and return. It just means I lose a bit of time. And oh, unfortunately, I died there, I forgot about that. So that's pretty unfortunate, loses maybe about 20 seconds. Shouldn't have happened, and in fact that was to do with the fact that I was partially improvising that area, so that's why I was saying I need to route that. So collecting the coins and keys again. Those keys unlock access to C1 and A3, which are the next areas that we're going to be going to in this level. So making our way back here, you can see it's a little less refined, it's a little less polished, and so yeah, that's something I need to work on. Not much to say here, we're just going to go down and collect these coins on the left as we make our way down to 3A3. Now this room is on and off. Sometimes I get it all the way through deathless and other times I die 5 or 10 times. I think in this run I got it deathless, which is good, that's how it should be. But once I get one death, I get an unfamiliar pattern, and so then it's more likely for me to die again. And this room as well, I don't have a predetermined route as such, but I'm fairly familiar with the possible combinations of the enemies moving in both axes, and so I'm familiar enough with the patterns that I'm able to improvise it very well, very reliably. The center section of this level is one that we don't get to do in the any % run. It's a little more difficult than the others because you're very close to the line where the enemies are intersecting, and you also have to juggle enemies that are moving horizontally back and forth. But it's not too bad, and I'm usually able to get through there in 0 deaths. Heading back here, we're not going to go up to A1 as we would in the any % route, because we actually haven't collected the key yet that will enable us to get from A1 to B1. So that would be a waste of time. Instead, we're going to go through B2. And while we're there, we're going to collect those coins at the beginning that I said we didn't collect. So we're going to come up here and collect these coins, and at barely up, we're going to die first because this is a route that I haven't practiced too much. So this is how it's supposed to look, and that barely loses any time over the previous route. And so now we're coming into 3B1. This is actually our first time in 3B1 in the 100% route, unlike the any % route where we come here straight away. And you can see I'm doing those little corner cuts on each corner that Curab discovered. So that's been a part of my route for quite a while now. And this room here I've also rerouted. You can see there's a very tight routing down to get those coins, and then straight back up here and a little key clip. Yeah, that's actually a key clip right there. There's a moment where the player phases through those enemies, and if the key clip didn't work, then that wouldn't work either. Now I've rerouted C1 to go up through the central island, then over this side, and then basically I get everything in 2 goes. So this is the first go, and then I'll get the checkpoint, and then I'll get everything else, and then I'll go back to B1. I think maybe in future runs I might try and do this in 1 go without the checkpoint in the middle, just because it's an easy room and I'm trying to do it as fast as possible. But then if you do die, it does lose a lot of time, so I haven't quite decided exactly how I'm going to improve on that. Maybe I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and not worry about it. So we're going to collect these coins, and the last thing to collect is the key in the middle. And the only thing that makes this room slightly difficult are those rotating enemies that go in a square in between the linear enemies. And yeah, there can be some tight situations, and if you move at the wrong cycle, you can end up dead. But we're going to get through here in 0 deaths, which is good. Really shouldn't have many deaths on C1. Now we're just going to head back through 3B1, just pick up the coins that we didn't collect on the first pass through this room. And so at this point, the next major obstacle we're heading towards is 3C3. Unfortunately, I don't know, I think I used to be better at 3C3, but as I've just picked up this category in the last few days, and I just haven't been doing very well in C3. So this run I did okay, but could have been better. Jacob Meisner in his 56:31 run actually beat C3 in 1 minute and 12 seconds, and that was completely deathless. So that's really good. That's what I'd like to be able to do in my runs. I have got 3 C3 deathless before, but not very consistently. In this run, it took me 2 minutes and 25 seconds to get through C3, and I had 3 deaths. And if you're not familiar with this room, it really is one of the most challenging in the game, mainly because most of the walls are made out of enemies, and all of the movements are quite precise, so you have to move through these corridors of enemies quite fast and quite precisely, and it's very easy to bump into the walls if you're rushing, or if you're going too slowly, then the enemies will catch up to you. There's a million ways that it can go wrong, which is why it's such a tough room. However, with practice, I do think I could probably get this room deathless in a run. Like I said, I have done that before, and I'd like to do it more reliably, which is why I would say that in the broad scheme of things, this room is probably the weakest part of this run, since I did lose a minute against Jacob Meisner's time of 1:12. But it's fair enough that I died here, because this is a tough room, and even though I did die a few times, I was still a lot faster than my previous PB, so that helped me gain some time there. I have done some things to try and speed this room up, by not waiting very long in between each section. You'll see I usually move on pretty quickly. But there's only so much you can do to speedrun this room, and really the most crucial thing is just getting as few deaths as possible. And also, if you move between sections too quickly, it can just lead to more deaths. Either you try and make a window that maybe is too small, or you just get distracted and it's harder to execute because you're trying to make a small window. Particularly after this tubular section that I'm doing now, I always make sure to take a short break afterwards, because if I rush after this section, then I usually die. So it's a compromise, because it means that I'm missing a cycle where I could get through faster, but I find that if I don't take the time to just pause for a moment, then I have a much higher death rate, and so that's, to me, is a bigger problem. And now we're just going through the last area of this room, and we're finally going to get through to the yellow paint, which is actually my favourite colour, second being the rainbow, and we've got to go down to the left there to collect that key, because part of the 100% category is that we get all the keys. Now in this room here we have a cool strategy as well, which is the coin clip. So the coin clip is basically the same as the key clip, except it works using the coin door at the end of each level. So you saw that I was able to phase through those enemies there in a similar fashion to the key clip. A few unfortunate deaths there. I haven't practiced this pass too closely, but that's the end of level 3 right there, and straight into level 4. So 4B1, I had a death at the beginning there, which is a bit of a shame, but it doesn't matter too much. Really, 4B1, I usually get deathless in my current runs, but a small death there. So this is basically just the same as my any percent route that I use in my 37:02 time, so nothing too special to see in that room. Now I've got a nice fast route here. We mop up 2 patches of coins and we'll get the rest of them later. Moving into 4C2, this is really one of the central rooms of level 4, along with C3 and C4. We're going to go through each of those 4 times, so mastering those rooms is very important. And after we finish C3 here, we'll be in 4C4, where I'm employing a slightly different route. When I get these coins here, you'll see I pop straight back out, which is slightly faster than what I was doing before. Unfortunately, I'm just about to die here though, which means we'll have to do it all again, but you can see it again. So the entrance is exactly the same, but the exit is 1 cycle earlier, so that saves a bit of time. And I'm also not getting the checkpoint after getting those coins, which would usually save time, except in that instance I actually died, so that was a bit unfortunate. Anyway, we're now heading into 4D4. I'm very happy with my route for this. It's served me well in any percent and 100% now that I can do it reliably. Faster routes are possible, but I haven't been able to get any of them consistent enough for it to be worth doing in a full game run. Moving into 4e4, unfortunately I missed a coin at the beginning there, but it doesn't matter, we'll come back to that later, and it will only take a few seconds. Jacob actually died quite a few times in this room, which is a bit of a surprise, but it can happen, and especially once you die once, it's easy for that to compound into multiple mistakes. Now E5 was really good, you'll see we just died then, but that was actually our only death in this level, so we finished E5 in 31 seconds, which is crazy to think about. In Curab's any percent run, he took 1 minute and 30 to complete this level, which is still really fast, and Jacob in his run took 1 minute and 10 seconds, which is also very impressive, but 30 seconds is what we achieved in this run, 31 seconds, which is even better. So we're going to mop up that coin, come back into D4, and I've got a really fast route for the return here as well, so there's a lot of tight executions here, but it's not too bad. If you look at the input logger at the bottom left, you can see that I'm actually not changing controls that often. You'll see in some later areas, particularly in level 5, you need to change your direction much more frequently, and so that's something that can play into the difficulty of the screen. I mean, for example, this screen right here, there's barely any changes, but the changes that are there are quite precise. So. Coming back through 4C3, like I said, this is an important room for Master, so we're going through there deathless. Fortunately I got a death here on C2, but it was right at the beginning, so that doesn't cost too much time. And we're heading through into 4D2 with, against my personal best, I'm going to be ahead by 1 minute and 13 seconds, so you can tell already that we've gained a lot of time. Most of that was actually gained in 3C3, because even though I had a rough 3C3 in this run, my previous run was even worse. That's why we gained that time. Now I didn't quite execute my route perfectly here, had to go back for a coin, so unfortunately we're not out of this room in perfect pace, but I got it deathless. I need to practice 4D2 a bit to make sure that I get it perfect every single time, because I actually make mistakes in there quite often, which shouldn't really happen. But that was just a small mistake, so we get through there without any problems. Coming back through 4C3, and we're going to mop up the last of these coins before we head into 4B4. Now previously I would have said that 4B4 was the hardest room in the game. I still think that's true, but you'll see that my performance in this run, I may say so myself, is amazing. So we're heading in with 22 deaths, and we're actually going to head out with 25 deaths. So that's just 3 deaths in this room, which is crazy. Jacob in his run got 6 deaths, which is also insane. Anything under 10 deaths is absolutely ludicrous. Whereas Curab in his run got 34 deaths in this screen. So I've gotten a lot better at this screen. I used to think that it was impossible to get any better. I thought it was just kind of a bit of luck and a bit of concentration, but actually I have been able to get much lower death counts here. And one of the strategies I use is actually just muting the music during this screen, so you can still hear the music on the recording, but I just mute my headphones, and that allows me to concentrate a bit more on these enemies. Now this is the left side of the room. The left and right side are not so bad, it's really the middle that's the tough part. Collecting this key, it's possible to actually squeeze into the earlier cycle, but we're just going to wait for the next cycle because I haven't been able to do that strat consistently. So once the next cycle comes, we're going to come back here, and yeah, so far we've only died twice, and we're heading back through here. As I've mentioned before, my strategy is basically just to focus intensely on the enemy that's in front of me and just edge my way towards it bit by bit, and as soon as I see that I can tap forward without running into the enemy, then I do it. And then that process kind of repeats itself until you get to the end of the screen. So Unfortunately, a little death there, but that is our third and final death for this room, which I'm very proud of and slightly scared of, because it means that beating this run is going to be much more difficult. However, it is repeatable, and Jacob Mosner's run, where he got 6 deaths in this room, he was only 10 seconds slower than me, so, you know, even if you die twice as many times, you don't actually lose that much time. That's the thing about 4v4, is the deaths don't cost a lot. They only cost a few seconds each. So you can get away with, you know, 10 or so deaths in that room and still have a world record pace run. Okay, after 4v4 is done, it's a huge relief, because that's basically the one room that is uncertain as to whether it will take me 2 minutes or 10 minutes. And once it starts going south, it gets worse and worse. And so that's why I was glad to be through that with very few deaths. And coming towards the end of level 4, we're about to see 2 very interesting techniques for completing the final room, which is 4A2. The first is we're going to use a menu pattern reset, which you may have seen if you've watched some of my other runs, which basically, once we get to the middle checkpoint in this level, we can't do a regular pattern reset, which is where you flick between 2 screens, because we're in the middle of the screen, so we can't flick to any other screen. So instead we're actually going to go to the main menu. And the reason we're going to go to all that bother is because the cycle takes 12 seconds before we can enter, whereas going to the menu takes about 6 or 7 seconds, so we end up saving about 5 or so seconds. I've never actually timed it exactly, but here we are going to the menu. We just click continue, and we'll be plopped straight back in there. Now, as soon as I respawn, I'm turning on speech bubbles. And the reason for that is because at the end of this level, when we finish, we want a speech bubble. And that's to do with the second strategy we're going to be using in this room, which is the black paint skip, which to my knowledge was discovered by Jacob Mosner. And basically, if you're not aware, when you finish a level, you actually become invincible until the next level is shown. And we need to use the speech bubbles, because when it shows a speech bubble, it delays the cutscene by a few seconds. So we're going to have about 4 seconds. You'll see we just need to, all we need to do is rush over there, and we can collect that, turn speech bubbles off, and we're into level 5 with a time of 27 minutes and 3 seconds, which is about 2 minutes ahead of Jacob Mosner's split of 29 minutes and 33 seconds. So at this point, we're about 2 minutes ahead of Jacob's world record, and we're going to pull much, much further ahead. Most of the time gain in this run is in level 5. So if you've seen my level 5 individual speed run, you'll know that my personal best for this level is 15 minutes and 57 seconds. In this run, we didn't quite achieve that, but we did achieve a time of 16 minutes and 45 seconds, so that's only a minute off my best. So it could have been better, but it was still a very strong level, whereas Jacob took 26 minutes and 58 seconds to complete this level, so that's where we gained basically 10 minutes over his run. And the first of those gains actually comes in this room right here. I got this room deathless, which I am able to do fairly frequently now. I've got quite a fast route, but I'm able to do it consistently, so that's working well. So that concludes 5A4 in under a minute. Now, I made a mistake in this room. I accidentally got the coins in the wrong order, so I got the coins first, which meant that I couldn't get the key, so I had to go for another revolution. A little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't matter too much. And the reason I had to get those coins is because of something we'll be doing later, so you'll see that later in the run. Now here, nothing much has changed here, except for the fact that unfortunately I died quite a few times in C4, which is a real shame because this is one of the easier rooms in level 5. And usually I'm able to get it deathless, but I started, yeah, there's the first death. That basically, yeah, kick-started all of these. So in total, I ended up losing about a minute over my... well, I lost a minute, but I was still a minute ahead because I was 2 minutes ahead. So a slight mishap in level 5, which basically explains why it was a minute behind my PB. because the rest of level 5 was immaculate. We got, you'll see it later, but we got 5 B3 deathless, 5 A3 and A2 deathless, 5 D2 and D3 deathless, and we also got the rainbow paint deathless. And I think I also got 5 C1 and C2 deathless, so totally crazy stuff. We ended up with only 13 deaths in level 5, which is a few more than my personal best, which was 10 deaths, but still a ridiculously low death count. So we're heading into 5D4, just a minute ahead of my personal best, but that's about to change. This room here, Curab does a key clip, but it's not necessary, it doesn't actually save any time, so I'm not going to bother with that. But we are about to do a key clip that does save a lot of time, and if I haven't made it clear already, the way that a key clip works is when you collect a key that opens a door in another room, it will show you a cutscene from that room, and just for a fraction of a second prior to that cutscene, you're actually completely invincible, which enables you to do something like this, where you pass through, in this case you pass through a wall of stationary enemies, and then we can just go out the door, and that saves a lot of time because otherwise you need to go the long way around that room, which does take quite a bit of time. So that technique was discovered by Curab and used in his any percent run. I refined it slightly by having a faster return. So now we're heading into 5B3, and this is one of the rooms that's really changed dramatically over the course of my speedrunning. When I first did this room, I was inching along at a snail's pace, and you can see now I've adopted a basically no-stop strategy. It is possible to do a key clip with that key in the top left corner, but I've never been able to do it reliably. I may incorporate that in future runs, but we're not doing that today. And you've also noticed, if you're paying attention, that I didn't actually get the checkpoint in B2, so one of the new things that I'm trying out in level 5 is doing B3 without the checkpoint in B2, which is quite risky because you can lose a lot of time if you die, but like I said, in this run I actually got 5B3 deathless, which is really good because this is one of the hardest rooms in the game, especially the left hand side there. So now we're going to mop up the rest of those coins and head into the other side of B3, which I also got deathless, and this is just, yeah, I mean, these routes, I love watching them, they're really fast and neat. I'm going to do a quick pattern reset. It doesn't really save any time, it's just that it's the pattern that I'm used to, so. And another sneaky key clip right there, which again doesn't save that much time, but it does save a few seconds. Just going straight through that wall rather than going underneath it. And it looks cool, which is the main reason. That maneuver there is actually reasonably tight, you have to make sure you get in there before the wheel does. And now we're into the checkpoint, into 5C2, which in my opinion is one of the coolest rooms in level 5. A bit of a callback to the balls of 3 different speeds that's in some of the earlier games. And so we're just going to mop up a few of the coins and collect all the keys before we head up to 5C1. Now, this is one of the rooms where I was talking about the speed of inputs. If you look at the input logger at the left, bottom left, you can see how quickly I need to change directions in order to execute all of these maneuvers. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff you get in level 5. I mean, that being said, this area here is actually not the most difficult area in level 5. So we got that in 0 deaths. Now 5C1 is a really crucial area. I've adopted quite a fast route, which I attempted in my 3702 any percent run, but I got quite a few deaths in that run, so I lost quite a bit of time. But I've used the same route here, except I got a deathless, so that saves a huge amount of time because dying on this area is actually reasonably costly. Heading into 5D1, I've slightly rerouted this. I mean, there's not really much routing going on, but I've made some decisions about the order in which I will take on different areas. So I died there, which is just as well because I accidentally collected the coin when I wasn't supposed to. So going up here, I think, no, I didn't die here. Okay, that's good. So get those 3 coins. And again, you know, much like 4v4, this can be a psychological challenge. So for this room here, sometimes I turn the music off and I just focus really intensely on the dots. You can see, unfortunately, I got a death there, which actually costs a little bit of time, but it will be okay. I think we should be getting it through on this run here. And yeah, this right-hand side I don't have so much practice with because I've mainly been doing 80% runs and it's not necessary in the 80% run. Oh, that's where I accidentally got the coins without waiting. So yeah, this is another one of the weaknesses of this run here. We got quite a few deaths in this room where it really isn't necessary. I have gotten this room deathless, including 100% in some of my runs, but not this time, unfortunately. Heading through here, there's a slightly faster route here. You don't have to wait quite as long down the bottom, but this is the route that I'm used to that I can do reliably, so that's why I use that. So that's the first part of 5D1. Now we've got to go back and get the rest of the coins after unlocking the keys to the rainbow paint. And at this point, we have lost about 30 seconds due to the deaths in that area, which is unfortunate, but we're still almost 3 minutes ahead of my previous PB, which is quite insane. And nice and quick route to go back into D1, which is something I developed recently as part of my 100% routing, and back into 5D1 for the rest of the coins. And wow, another death there. The first part, this part really shouldn't cause any deaths. This is actually the easiest part of this screen. So I don't know why I died there so many times, but we're going through here to collect some of these coins and then we'll be on our way to get the rainbow paint. Yeah, this room is pretty precise, so I understand why I died a few times, but hopefully I can do better in the future. You'll notice we've got currently 35 deaths, and the final death count for this run is 38 deaths. So only 3 to go. It's often the case for me, the last few areas of level 5 don't give me any trouble. It's actually the beginning and middle of level 5 that usually give me trouble. So from here on, we've only got 3 more deaths. And I don't go up to the checkpoint here, we're just going straight into B2. Just got to be as fast as possible. And the rainbow paint is a room that I really should get in 0 deaths every single time, but unfortunately sometimes I do die. But I got a deathless in this run, so that's good. And the route I'm using, to my knowledge, is basically as fast as possible with some minor compromises, but it's pretty fast. Moving up to this room. This room's pretty easy to improvise, but I've memorized the safe spots that I'm going to go to and from, so that's completely routed. And once we collect the rainbow paint, we're going to intentionally kill ourselves in order to go back to the checkpoint. Now I haven't really routed that part just there, so I really should do, because you can see that was a bit sloppy. It is interesting to note that the rainbow paint is the only place where an intentional death finds itself a practical purpose in a speedrun of this game. Anyway, moving into 5D2. This is a room that I've really gotten a lot better at recently. So I've been practicing moving into these small cages even when they're not in sync, which you can see me doing a lot in this room. But it's possible to do it even faster, and I kind of want to practice even more to be able to get through here faster, because it's quite a long room and there's a fair amount of time to be saved. And speaking of saving time, I'm going to employ a faster route in this room. So this is a really interesting room. On the face of it, you might think it wouldn't be that interesting for speedrunning because it's just a bunch of coins, but then you have to ask, well, how quickly can you collect those coins, and are you going to be at the key at the right moment to do the key flip? I've done a lot of research in this room, and I actually think it's possible, theoretically possible, to get all the coins before the enemies come, but that would require a Taz level of precision, and it involves sweeping out a 3-wide area of coins at a time. which is humanly possible, but very difficult to pull off reliably. So that's why I'm using this easier route, but it still saves a few seconds over my previous one. I played it safe, so I had a little bit of time to wait before the key came. You can play it tighter and save even more time, but I just didn't want to die there during this exceptional run. So once we collect these last few coins, we're out of 5D2, and here in 5C2, I shouldn't have too much trouble, but I got a bit confused about collecting these coins, so I died and didn't quite get the optimal strategy there. Now the return through C3 is fairly simple. Just need to make sure to maintain a good enough speed through these corridors so that the wheels don't catch up to you as you're going through there. Now I think I died here, which is a bit unfortunate. I had these 3 coins left over at the side here, which I didn't really mean to do, but I just missed them on my first pass, so that messed me up a little bit. It was actually this room where I died, just entered too early, so I had to go back and get these again. But that's the last death of the run, so the clock is 40:25, and we've got 38 deaths, and we're just going to be going straight through and finishing it. And of course, we're doing this in rainbow style because we're cool like that. So we're heading through 5B4, around the turning wheel, straight through non-stop up to the top left corner of 5B3, and then we'll be on to the grey. And I used to get this deathless almost every time. Recently, I employed some slightly faster strats, which in turn have meant that I sometimes do get some deaths on it. But I did get it deathless in this run, which is good. And I didn't employ all of my fast strategies for this. Basically, in A3, there's varying degrees. The way the cycles relate to each other, there's varying paces that you can go through it. So I've been trying to optimize that, but also not trying to bend over backwards to try and save a few seconds, because then you just end up dying more often. So it's always a balance. But one thing that's enabled me to get really fast times in this game, in both any percent and 100%, has been just learning the hard routes, even though they're hard, and practicing enough until they become consistent. Unfortunately, there's some strategies that I'm still not consistent enough to use. Like I was talking about the far left side of 4B4 with the key, and also the key clip in level 1. So, and a few others. There are optimizations to be made, as well as obviously dying less often, which is really the key thing that I will use in the near future to lower this time. Now I'm just taking it really carefully through this last area here because I've died too many times here and it would lose quite a bit of time if we were to die right now. As I'm just making my way through the rest of this area, we have actually almost completed the entire game. And there we go, we're just going to head up here to the top where we will see the cutscene. And that is it. That is the World's Hardest Game 3 100%. Obviously we haven't finished quite yet, but the final time is 43 minutes and 48 seconds. Thank you very much for watching. This wouldn't be possible without Stephen Krytoff, who developed the World's Hardest Game series, and I would never have run any of these categories if it weren't for Jacob Meisner, who has been an influential figure in the World's Hardest Game 3 community, which is limited in its number. So if you want to join the World's Hardest Game Discord, there'll be a link in the description. I encourage you to do that if you're an equal fan. So I hope you enjoyed the run. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.